Let me share my slide. Is it visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we were discussing about, yeah, if you remember, we were at this point, we were discussing about the NIST architecture, right? And we have seen that when we talk about this cloud computing architecture, there are primarily um, two components, right? So primarily two. So one is the front end, the other one is the back end. But again, each of these individually also has its own different subcomponents. So which is actually defined by this NIST architecture, which I am going to talk about. So once again, this I already spoke in the last lecture, but just for the sake of continuity, this front end basically is the one which is interfacing with the end users or the clients and takes care of the connection with the clients. And the back end is basically more from the service provider point of view, right? So service provider viewpoint and management of the services, taking control of the infrastructure and managing the infrastructure and so on. Okay, so this is how this NIST architecture looks like. So you have these broad different components. For example, the cloud consumer, cloud provider, then you have the cloud broker, cloud auditor, and the cloud carrier, right? So each of these again have their own different subcomponents, which we are going to cover individually. So NIST architecture, National Institute of Standards and Technology, this architecture basically identifies 5 essential characteristics, right? So the first characteristics, so all of these characteristics actually in different forms we already covered during the introduction, but we'll look at it from a different perspective now. So we'll look at these 5 essential characteristics individually one by one. The first one is the on-demand self-service, and basically as this name says, and as we also saw earlier as well, that on demand basically, so the consumers, they can provision their computing capabilities and they can enjoy the services in a self-service provisioned manner. They can enjoy the services based on their requirements, right? So so these computing capabilities could be the server time, the network usage, storage, and these would be made available based on the individual requirements of the consumers. And so taking care of all of these is as part of this on-demand self-service provisioning. So the next one is basically the broad network access. So all these capabilities of cloud, these are actually made available over the network, right? So essentially you have all your computing resources, all the computing resources, these are not geographically co-located. These are somewhere else, right? Not at the same place from where the users are using these resources. So these resources, these are made available over the network, right? And there are mechanisms through which this network-based service provisioning is done. And so users basically they can use different types of thin or thick client platforms, which includes the standard workstations, laptops, mobile phones, or so different other, nowadays there are so many different other types of devices that are also there. So all these different types of clients can be used in order to get access to these different computing resources over the network. Resource pooling is one of the core features that makes cloud computing very interesting and useful. So basically, what happens is there is a multi-tenant model, right? So there are multiple tenants, and there is a pool of resources. These pool of resources are through this multi-tenancy. Basically, this pool of resources are used to serve multiple consumers, these different resources, these are basically assigned and reassigned according to the different consumers' demand in real time, right? So at the same time, the same set of resources could be used by different consumers at the same time, right? So this is basically part of this resource pooling. So resources are pooled from multiple different sources and are made available to multiple consumers depending on their demand. And that assignment and reassignment is done according to this consumer's demand in real time. Rapid elasticity is very important, right? And one of the core features of cloud computing. So basically, these resources, these are elastically provisioned and are released. So whenever you need more resources on demand, you get more. Whenever you do not need any more, these resources are released. And this has to be done automatically, right? Ideally automatically. So automatically, whenever there is a huge demand, these resources are going to be made available. Whenever there isn't, it is going to be released. And to the consumer, basically, the capabilities that are available for provisioning, they would often appear unlimited, and these can be appropriated in any quantity at any time, right? So basically, the consumer feels like they have access to infinite capabilities of computing resources, right? So consumer feels that way, and whatever they need, they can enjoy. And whenever these resources are not required, the consumer doesn't have to pay for those resources, those many units of resources. So this is this rapid elasticity, right? So you stretch and you relax, you stretch and you relax these resources as much as you want. Measured service, everything is measured. It's an utility. So utility computing, perspective is applied over here. So this is measured, and whatever units are required for the consumer, they pay for those many units, and they do not have to pay more. So whatever is being used, they pay for those, and the rest of the resources are being made available to the other consumers for them to enjoy, right? So these resource usage, this can be monitored, controlled, and reported, thereby providing transparency for both the provider and the consumer of the utilized service. So these are some of these different perspectives of this NIST architecture for cloud computing. Now this NIST architecture, as I said, it gives the backend as well as the front end features. Each of these backend and front end features, they have their own different components. So we'll take up one by one and we'll try to understand. So this is how what components basically are used in the backend and the components that are used at a high level in the front end. So pictorially you can see over here. So let us take up one by one each of them. So we'll start with the backend first. So in the backend you have this application, service, runtime cloud, storage, and infrastructure. You also have these verticals, management and security, which basically has to be, which has to be ensured for all these different layers in this backend, right? So basically what it means is this management and security are applicable for all these different layers: application, service, runtime cloud, storage, and infrastructure. So this application is basically the user interface for the backend, right? So this is this first layer that you see on top, user interface for the backend, and it is used by the clients to interact with the backend services. Okay, the different databases and manage the client's requests. So it may be any kind of software that the client wants to access, right? The service layer, it basically consists of different types of services that has to be accessed as per the requirement of the client. So different types of services. And what are these primarily three different types of services are there. What are these? This infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and platform as a service, right? These are the three primary types of services that were provided as part of cloud computing. So these services are part of the service layer. Then you have the runtime cloud, which manages the executions of the programs in virtual machines, right? So all these runtime management, virtual machine provisioning, deprovisioning, instantiating, etc. So all of these things, their management, their execution, management, and so on. So all of these are part of this runtime cloud component, this layer, runtime cloud layer. So this particular layer, it manages runtime environment and instances of these virtual machines. Storage basically provides large storage capabilities for client data, and it enables complex data analytics. Okay, so storing of the data and enabling or performing different types of interesting data analytics. These are actually part of this storage layer. So this storage is very important because this is where all these data are stored, and everything that you do on top actually depend on this storage layer. So the storage layer has to be built in such a way that it supports computationally intensive tasks and their execution. Then at the very bottom is the infrastructure. So this infrastructure basically again has three different levels. One is the host level, application level, and network level. So what it means is you have host level infrastructure, application level infrastructure, and network level infrastructure. So these infrastructure at all of these different levels, it consists of software components such as virtualization software and hardware components such as network devices, servers, and storage facilities. So those were these horizontal layers, and as I said that you also have this management layer and the security layer. So one by one we'll take up. So this management layer basically, it coordinates between the different components of the backend, manages the cloud environment, including the runtime cloud, and manages the resources in the backend and orchestrate the workflow. So it manages the workflow distribution and implements security. So all of these management, different types of management, tasks governing all of these different functionalities in these different layers like application service, runtime cloud, storage, and infrastructure. All of these are basically taken care of by this management layer. And on the other end, you have the security, and this is a very important layer because this basically security it's something that has to be ensured throughout. And basically this security layer, it provisions a set of policies that has to be enforced, set of rules that has to be enforced, application level security, the different control mechanisms and their security, ensuring privacy of the data, security of the overall infrastructure, security of the services. So all of these are part of this security layer. So once again, this management and security are layers which cut across the different other layers such as application service, runtime, cloud, storage, and infrastructure. So those are the backend components. Then we have the front-end components. So these front-end components basically, these are the main front-end components: the user application, user interface, web servers, thin client, and fat client. So this is the pictorial depiction of it. You have the front end has user interface, client-side web applications, web browsers, and web servers. So let us look at these different actors that are used in cloud. And this is actually part of this NIST architecture, right? So what do we see over here in this figure? is you have the cloud consumer, cloud provider, cloud broker, cloud auditor, and the cloud carrier. So we'll take up one by one and try to understand what so what each of these basically does, right? So cloud consumer is basically like you and me, the consumers, the persons, the organizations, right? The different stakeholders that maintain the business relationship with the cloud providers and uses the services from the cloud providers. Okay. So this consumer may be a person or an organization, or it is not mentioned over here, but this consumer may not be a person at all or an organization at all. It could be some component, right? Some industrial machinery or something like that, which could also be a consumer, right? And so any entity which basically consumes, which basically enjoys these different types of cloud services, like platforms, infrastructure, and software, or different other advanced levels of services are also available nowadays. So these are actually these are part of this cloud consumer component. So the cloud consumer basically uses the services of the cloud. Okay. Next comes cloud provider. This one, the one that is shown, highlighted in this particular figure. This is this cloud provider. And this cloud provider basically again could be a person or an organization or any other entity. But the responsibility of each of these is to make the cloud services that are required by the cloud consumers made available to them. Okay. So these cloud services are made available to these consumers by this cloud provider. So taking care of different issues such as rental, provider management of virtual hardware, software, infrastructure, and different other related services. These are actually part of the different functions of the cloud provider. Cloud auditor is the one, an entity again, which is typically some organization, which examines the different services that are provided by the cloud provider. Typically, it's a third party, right? Typically, it's a third party, neither the consumer nor the provider, a third party independent auditor, right? In the same way as we have financial audits in many organizations, in the same way as we have infrastructure audits in different organizations, and these are typically done by external parties, external auditors. So same thing is done over here in the cloud as well. So beyond the relationship between these consumers and the providers in cloud computing, there has to be some auditor, some third party, which is going to make sure independently, which will do some assessments independently to ensure that the level of performance, the level of security, the different types of SLAs, the corresponding service offerings, all of these are done as per the relationship between, that is, as per, let us say, the service level agreement between the consumers and the providers, right? Whether everything is being done appropriately, both in terms of policies as well as the technical, provisioning of hardware, network, etc. So whether the auditor will check whether the provider is providing as per the promise that is made to the consumers, right? So this is what the cloud auditor does. So it provides an independent opinion about the services and verifies the conformance with different types of standards, right? So the cloud auditor basically evaluates these services with respect to security, performance, and privacy. Cloud broker. Cloud broker is the one that manages the use, performance, and delivery of the cloud services. Manages the use, performance, and delivery of the cloud services. It negotiates the relationships between the cloud providers and the cloud consumers. So there are three categories of services that are provided by the cloud broker: aggregation service, arbitrage, and the intermediation. So this broker basically, this entity, it is the one which manages this use and ensures that the performance and the delivery of these different types of services and their usage, these are done appropriately between the cloud providers and the cloud consumers. So the broker basically sits between the providers and the consumers and ensures that all of these, the ones that I just mentioned, the performance, management of the use, service usage, delivery of cloud services, so all of these are done appropriately by the provider. And so basically, so taking care of brokerage services between the consumer and the provider. So in the same way as in any marketplace, right? In any marketplace, what we have typically we have some kind of a provider, some kind of a consumer. So, but there are typically also certain brokers, right? So, for example, many of you may have experienced, if you are going to some major healthcare facility, some very big hospital or something like that. So typically you will find that there are brokers which try to help the consumers or the clients like us in order to get access to these facilities in these major hospitals in an appropriate manner, right? So this is what this brokerage service is all about. And the same thing applies in the context of cloud computing as well. Okay. So then comes the cloud carrier. It connects the cloud services to the telecommunication provider and it provides different types of networks, VPNs, APIs for dynamic resource allocation. So all of these are done by the cloud carrier. Okay. So there are different service models, and you have already seen time and again the primary three service models of cloud computing: infrastructure, platform, and service. And software as a service. So infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. These three primary ones we have already seen. But basically, it started with those three preliminary services, but it extended to anything as a service or everything as a service. And it is written like this: XaaS. X is a placeholder for anything or everything. So XaaS, anything as a service or everything as a service. So it provides some kind of a combination of service-oriented architecture and cloud computing. And these different types of services, as I will show you shortly, these different types of services, through this adoption of service-oriented architecture sitting on top of cloud computing, this is made available for use. So once again, just to recap, we'll start with this primary cloud service models, and then we'll go to the other different types of service models. So infrastructure as a service basically provisions and manages the physical processing, storage, networking, and the hosting environment and cloud infrastructure for the different consumers, right? So basically anything to do with the physical infrastructure, storage, networks, hosting environment, and so all these different things, these are actually part of this infrastructure as a service offering. Platform as a service basically is all about the development platform. So provisions and manages the cloud infrastructure and middleware for the platform consumers, provides development, deployment, and administration tools to the platform consumers. So typically it is for the developers to have certain environments that they can use as platforms for further development of the system of the software. And software as a service basically installs, manages, and maintains and supports the application software application on a cloud infrastructure. So these are the three primary cloud service models that exist. So infrastructure services that provide high-level APIs that are used to abstract the various low-level details of underlying network infrastructure. Low-level details means low-level infrastructural details, like the physical computing resources, the location, data partitioning, scaling. Scaling means scaling up or down, right? So scaling means like scalability, right? And security and backup. So all of these are basically are of concern to infrastructure as service. So as per the formal NIST definition of infrastructure as service, this is what NIST definition says. So according to this NIST's definition of infrastructure as service, this infrastructure as a service is where the consumer is able to deploy and run arbitrary software, which can include operating systems and applications. The consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure, but has control over the operating systems, storage, and deployed applications, and possibly limited control of the selected networking components, for example, the host firewalls. So this is as per the formal definition of NIST, for infrastructure as a service. So the different business aspects of infrastructure as a service includes economical web hosting services, supporting applications and web servers and managing the network resources, increased performance on computing, assisting in big data analytics, and maintaining huge storage, backup, and recovery. These are the different business aspects of infrastructure as a service. The different publicly available infrastructure as a service, popularly available infrastructure as a service platforms include the Google Cloud platform. Many of you must have already experimented with Google Cloud. Some of you must have already tried the AWS, Amazon's AWS, which is one of the primitive cloud infrastructure as a service offering. And then Microsoft also, in recent times, they have also come up with their Azure platform. So these are the three main, not three just main, but these are three prominent infrastructure as a service offerings that are available for anyone to use. How many of you have experimented with any of these public infrastructure as a service clouds? Anyone who has worked with Google Cloud?
Yes, sir. I have used Google Cloud.
Otonu, you tell your name. Otonu, right?
Yeah.
Anyone else who has used Google Cloud?
Sir, I have
Can you speak a little louder?
Sir, I have done
Who is that?
Purimal Satta.
Who is this?
Purimal Satta.
Oh, Porimol. Porimol. You have used Google Cloud too. Acha, Amazon AWS, who has used?
Sir, this is Arnam. I have used.
You have used Arunanks. Very good. What did you use it for?
So for creating a Alexa skill that upon giving a company's name, it will return me its stock price at a lifetime.
Acha, okay. 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 And Azure?
Sir, I have used
Yes,
Azure.
sir.
Gurmeet
I have
here.
Name?
used their
Gurmeet. Yeah. Okay. And can you tell what you have done with Azure?
Sir, it was in my second year. I made an app for Code Fundu. So for
Okay.
that I used.
Okay. Very good. So this year, I think there was no Code Fundu, right? I don't think so.
Sir, it went
Or was
online
it?
actually.
It went online. Okay.
Yeah, and the dates also shifted a lot. So
Okay. So I will show you some video. Actually, I had it ready, but yeah. So I'll just take a little while. So this basically shows a kind of comparison between this Google Cloud, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure. So Nidhi, can you do one thing? If you have that link handy, can you that comparison of these different types of cloud? Can you show that video?
I need a
in
minute. I'll just get the link.
Yeah, you do it at your end, because that way I can save some time, right? So let me, in the meanwhile, complete the rest of the stuff in this particular lecture. Okay. Next, this platform as a service. Okay, so platform as a service, it basically defines the capability that is provided to the consumer to deploy onto the cloud infrastructure, consumer created or acquired applications that are created using programming languages, libraries, services, and tools that are supported by the provider. Okay. The consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure, including the network, servers, operating systems, storage, but has control over the deployed applications and possibly configuration settings for the application hosting environment. This is actually, I have taken it directly from NIST document, and this is how they define this platform as a service, right? So as you can see over here, it's mostly about development related service offerings, right, for the developers, programming languages, libraries, services, tools, etc. Okay, and this is basically on top of this regular infrastructure, but abstracted to provide developer related tools. So this platform as a service gives the customers the ability to use a provider's physical hardware remotely. The clients may utilize a provider's virtual servers, storage databases, and networks on pay-per-use basis. This is true because ultimately, everything sits on this infrastructure service, right? So there are different business aspects of platform as a service. It stands as a platform for the development and customization of cloud-based applications. This platform as a service, it has different tools that allow to investigate and mine their information, thereby finding deeper insights to deliver better outcomes. PaaS basically offers services for enhanced protection, workflow, directory, and scheduling. These are some of these different business perspectives of platform as a service. So these two you must have heard about: Google App Engine. How many of you have heard about Google App Engine? App
Yes, sir.
Engine,
I'm
anybody has
Otonu.
heard?
I have used
Only Otonu.
Heroku and Google App Engine.
Both you have used. Very good.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good. So apart from Otonu, anybody else has used or has heard about?
Yes, sir. I used App Engine.
Who is this?
Porimon.
Porimon. Okay. Okay. So if you have so those of you who have not used any of them, in your leisure time, please try to get more information, because everything is available openly, right? Everything is public offering only. So just so once you get the slides, you can just go to their corresponding sites. You can try to see what sort of offering is there, right? So these things, I think you can, so that way actually you will get better more information beyond whatever I tell you over here. Now software as a service basically provides on-demand access and use of cloud-based software without the need for physical on-site equipment, platforms, or installed software applications. So basically you do not have to really install your Microsoft Word, right? You can use Google Doc. Do you understand? So I do not really have to go and purchase my own different software. I can use some of these software that are made available as services from these cloud providers, right? So again, as per the definition, formal definition by NIST of SaaS, This is what it reads. The capability that is provided to the consumer is to use the provider's applications running on a cloud infrastructure. The applications are accessible from various client devices through either a thin client interface, such as a web browser, or a program interface. The consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure, including the network, the servers, operating systems, storage, or even individual application capabilities, with the possible exception of limited user-specific application configuration settings. So business aspects of SaaS, it shows simple accessibility for complex applications, allows using client software in a free manner, mobilize workforce, and accessibility for application information from any location. Some of the popular examples of SaaS: OneDrive, Dropbox, Office 365. Office 365, anybody has used Office 365?
Yes, sir. I'm subscribed to it.
Yes, sir. I use it.
Okay, very good. So there are many of you who are using many of these cloud services. So I told you about these primary models, this infrastructure, platform, and software. But over time, it has evolved into, these cloud services has evolved into anything as a service. So you will find in literature, there are models proposing security as a service, database as a service, business process as a service, identity as a service, backup as a service, communication, content, and computing as a service, storage as a service, and I have not mentioned over here, there is something called network as a service also. Plus, there is something that actually our Swan Lab, we have developed ourselves, which is called the sensors as a service. We work on wireless sensor networks. So we have developed platform for offering sensors as a service, which is called the Big Sensor Cloud platform, right? Because it supports big data processing on our cloud, and this is called Big Sensor Cloud platform, right? So this one actually has become very popular. Our sensors as a service offering. So there are some very seminal works that were done by us in our group, and globally there are so many researchers that are actually using our works for offering sensor capabilities and sensing services to different end users without them having to deploy their own sensor network, right? Anyway, so I just wanted to mention to you about this thing. If you search in the internet now, you will find a lot of other works also on sensors and sensing as a service. But one of the first works was done by us, and those literature actually we have published in some of the very prominent IEEE journals and conferences in this particular area. So the requirements of the cloud service provider, basically, increased productivity, increased end user satisfaction, increased innovation, and increased agility, right? So those are some of these different types of yeah. So what I will do is I will stop over here. Nidhi, did you get that link?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will stop over here today. Next class we will cover microservices. So in between, so we'll I do not know. I think it would also help, in between, if we can also do a little bit of progress on what Anand Sri was showing you the demo of, so that you can get a little bit more idea about what we are all talking about, right? So we'll see, so either I will next class, either I will do the microservices or we will go for the demo. So either of these will do. Okay. So yeah. So Nidhi, can you show? Please stop the recording. Huh? So please stop the recording.
And Google.
So there are copyrighted content. So please stop the recording.